To me, sales is about relationships. It's about the transference of inspiration. And I believe the biggest mistake I see people make is they don't make the jump from transactional to relational.
Well, hey there, and welcome back to the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. Today, I'm going to be introducing you to another very special guest and somebody who is not only a seasoned expert in the direct selling space, but also somebody who is incredibly passionate, skilled, and knowledgeable about sales and marketing. Today, I introduce you to the amazing Genevieve Skory, who has got an incredible history in this industry. She's worked for many different companies, but something I found out in this interview, she's also been in the field herself, so understands what it's like on the other side of the desk. Genevieve shares her passion for this industry, but most importantly, strategies to be successful, strategies in sales and marketing, no matter how big or small your business is. If you are constantly afraid of asking for the sale, if you feel like your sales need to improve, if you're struggling because you've got this business, but you don't know how to communicate it with your family and friends, or maybe you're showing up on social media and you're wondering why no one's seeing your stuff. Well, Genevieve shares some of her strategies and reasons why you might be experiencing some of these challenges. She gives some practical things that you can do right now off the back of this episode to change things up and start to get some amazing results. So, I'm going to hand over now to the interview with this amazing woman. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed being on this side of the camera with her and getting to meet her, chat with her, and learn a little bit from her. So grab yourself a pen and paper. You're going to need it because she shares some amazing golden nuggets. That's it from me, handing over to Genevieve Skory. Well, hello and welcome back to the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. I am so excited to be sitting here chatting with you today, Genevieve. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for asking. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, well, look, I know you and I feel like we've hit it off right from the start, had a great couple of chats already. We see things very similarly, but I am a bit in awe of your experience in the industry. You've been in direct selling for a long, long time. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what brings you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I, like a lot of people, had an aversion to this whole channel, to be completely honest. So I think that gives me a really great perspective. Like, I was like, no, no, thank you. My husband and I had our own training boutique business. And along the way, I ran into someone that introduced us to network marketing. So I've built on my own up to an executive level, replaced a great income, enjoyed all the benefits, all the things, and then transitioned from being in the field to actually working for many of the direct selling companies that most people would recognize. So I would say I have decades of experience working both in the field and in the home office of many direct sales companies, all the way up to being a chief field development officer.
Wow, so I actually didn't know that you'd also been in the field as well.
Yes, I have that perspective. I know what it's like to start from zero.
I think that's a really great thing because often corporates, not always, but often corporates have not had that experience. And so they're guiding and leading and training the field, but they don't necessarily have that same understanding of what it's like to be in the thick of it. But you've been there, you've done that.
Yes, and I think it's a perspective that we actually I'm going to say it, we might need a little more of.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's one thing to have your corporate goals and know where you want to take a business. It's another thing completely to understand how the field actually markets your product or services
Yeah.
and opportunity, which
Yeah.
I could speak for hours on the things we need to do in that arena.
Well, I feel like we should touch on that today for sure, because you've definitely had a very interesting perspective. You've worked for a number of head offices in varying different companies, which is great. You've got such a breadth of experience across the direct selling industry. And you're located in Arizona, yes, which is
Yes,
where all the cactuses in the desert are, right?
there's so much more than cactus. But yes, this is where
Yeah.
I'm in that part of the state. Now, if you go
Yeah.
2 hours north, you're going to have skiing and evergreen trees. So
Yeah, well, this is funny because while I was pregnant with Addie, I actually came over for the DSA conference in Scottsdale, Arizona,
yes,
which is, I believe, very close to where you are. And because we're like, whenever we go over for a conference, so of course you're kind of hovering around the resort or the conference center, and you don't get a chance often to get out and look at things. And I love to travel and explore, and so I wanted to just see something outside of the resort while we were there. So I got in an Uber with another really great friend of ours who's also been on the podcast, Julie Masters, and the two of us decided to go for a little morning hike. We were told, whatever you do it early morning because it's really hot and you'll
hot.
dehydrate. And we're like, we're from Australia. We understand all of that. We're fine. So we got dropped off like at this hike in the desert where there was like a tourist information center,
Yes,
and they were really funny with us. They said, just go out 20 minutes and don't go any
and
longer
come
than
back.
that.
Yeah.
Take your drink bottles with you and do not run out before you turn around. And we're like, why are they getting so weird about this? Like, come on. I mean, so we took off, we went walking, and, we're just chatting, we're walking, we're drinking. And for us, going for a 3 to 5 kilometer walk, I don't know what that is in miles, maybe one and a
Yeah.
half to 2 miles, something like that, is
Yeah.
no big deal, right? And so we go out and we realize our drink bottles are empty, and we're like, oh, we're getting really dry throats. This is so weird. Anyway, we thought maybe we should turn around. And so we turned around and came back. By the time we came back, we were dying of thirst.
Yeah.
And the personnel from the tourist center had already gone out to rescue someone who had done similar what we had and not listen. And I'm thinking, how you guys have got very dry air there, right?
There's zero moisture in the air here. And if I remember correctly, Sam, the DSA event is in the dead of summer when it's
Yes,
like
it was. It
way up.
was in summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's way above 100 degrees. And just fun fact, that's not when we all go hiking. We're like, if
Yeah.
you can't be out, you can't be back in your car by like 8 o'clock, you're not hiking. So
It's kind of like that for us. We were the non-flag swimmers. So in Australia, we kind of joke around about the people that come to Australia, the
yeah,
tourists,
right.
and at the beach, there's always the flags, and they say swim between the flags. And the Australians understand why this is so important, and they don't. If they're going to swim elsewhere, they understand how to look for rips, and they're a little bit more beach ocean savvy. But tourists come in and they're like, what's going to happen? And it's always the tourists that get caught in the rips. So I feel like Julie and I were kind of like the that for you guys.
That there is always that. We're always like, I'm in a chat for people that go hiking in the Grand Canyon, and everybody's like, why are people hiking in the dead of summer? And I'm just like, we warn them. We try our best. But
Yeah. So I want to kind of connect this into a conversation today, because I think this is, the thing that I see a lot in this industry is people coming in and not listening to those people who have been where they are, that
swim
know
between
how
the
to walk,
flags.
swim between the flags. Yeah. Don't hike in summer. So it's like, I want to talk today about some of the, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? This is an industry where hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have gone before you, have grown successful businesses. And you've got the people who constantly think they have to reinvent the wheel. And maybe you right now listening to this have been thinking there's got to be a better way, and you're trying to figure it out on your own, or you're researching, or you're listening to all these people. Guys, you've come to the right place, first of all, because the beauty of this podcast is we pull in all those experts like Genevieve who have done it before, who understand these are the things that you can do, that you should do if you want to run a successful business. You can swim between the flags. So let's talk a little bit about some of those things today that people can do to grow successful businesses in this place. But I want to chat with you a little bit about marketing and selling, right? Because this is something you're very passionate about, yes?
Yes, yes, yes.
Now, I think there is a lot of misconceptions around the difference between what marketing and selling are and the importance of both of them in a business. So for those people who are, let's speak to the people with the side hustle right now, because we could talk to the corporate, and there's a lot of knowledge and information I know you could share that would be helpful there. But let's start with the hobby business owner who's sitting there going, I'm only little, I'm only tiny, I don't need to do any marketing. And what's the difference really between marketing and selling? Can you first of all speak into that?
Yes. And I'm going to just dumb it down to the easiest
Please
common
do.
denominator, because I think so. Where I feel so passionately about this subject is for those folks that are like, listen, I literally just want to make like that $300 to $500 a month, as well as for people that are, hey, I kind of use the business on an as needed basis, which is okay to do. And I think many people start that way. But I think the common mistake people make is that they don't understand that outside of your immediate family and friends, you are literally invisible to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So we're super excited. We found a great product. We found a great company. We found a great culture. And we're like, why? I hung my shingle. I started my Instagram or my Facebook, or I put my website together. Where are all the people? And it's kind of
Yeah.
like, well,
Why aren't people responding to everything I'm doing? Yeah.
correct. And why aren't they lining up to purchase from me? I'm doing all the things. And it's kind of like, well, you have to get out of what I call invisibility. And
Mm-hmm.
marketing to me is about creating awareness about the problems you solve for people
Mm-hmm.
and how you do it. So it's conversations, it's video, it's, advertising, it's all the things that just are like, hey, I'm out here. So it's kind of getting out of invisibility to at least awareness. And everybody needs to do that, because outside of your mom, your dad, that cousin, maybe that friend in elementary school or college that is now part of your business, then what? Then
Mm-hmm.
what? So I'm a big fan of strategies stay the same, tactics can change, but the strategy of network marketing is creating that sense of marketing in different people's communities. I think communities is the word now, that instead of like networks, like when you're in
Yeah.
business, you have a network. When you're a normal person, you have a community. And
Yeah.
so you have to find a way to get into other people's communities. And that is the beauty of marketing, which is, this is my story. This is how it hopefully resonates with you and talks to you about what. So I think it's an ongoing thing that people have to do. And as the channel has changed a little bit, because I remember back in the day, it was like, just bring your friends. Just bring your friends to the hotel
Yeah.
meeting and we'll do the marketing for you. So all you really had to do was market the meeting,
Yep.
and then but it's changed. So I think people have to get into marketing. Once you've created that awareness, to me, sales is about relationships. It's about the transference of inspiration. And I believe the biggest mistake I see people make is they don't make the jump from transactional to relational.
Oh, yep. Yeah, I love that. Well, let's come back for a little second to community. One of the things that you mentioned there, of course, was building your community or your network. Same, just depending on which angle you're coming from. But what would be some strategies that you would give people if you were to give, say, your top strategies for building community successfully for someone who does have that little side hustle going on? What would those tips be?
Well, I definitely think you've got to create awareness in real life. So, how can you show up as the best version of your customer? And what I mean by that is if what I sell is something that's going to help you with your a problem in your life, I have to I have to balance the sense of I understand your problem and I'm
Mhm.
super empathetic to where you've been because I have been there, but
Mhm.
I've made the jump. I've made the transition and I'm here showing up as someone who made the transition, but not in a boastful way. So I think there's the show up with empathy, show up in real life and not do the whole like, oh, here I am pulling in with my car or, look at me, I just got another great trip. It's like there's ways to talk about those things, but
Yeah.
you have to show up where your customer is. And then I am a big fan of you have to be marketing like digitally. It like it's a thing. It's a
Yeah.
100% a thing. And in real life, it's a matter of keeping your ears open. And I think Sam, the problem that we see is people don't know what to say in that moment. So when we were doing training, and I've trained tens of thousands of consultants, there are two biggest fears people have. I don't want to hear no, but
Mm.
people are also afraid of hearing yes because they don't know what to say when they get the yes.
Yep. Yep.
So you have to be prepared for that in real life because I think
Yes.
there's opportunities everywhere. But then I would go down the whole path of Instagram, Facebook. How are you showing up on there? Being strategic about reaching your customers and creating community to me is Facebook groups. It is working
Mhm.
those groups. It is ensuring that you're not just like the big mistake I see, and I know I'm probably preaching to the choir because I know this is what you guys teach,
Yeah.
is like you don't just one, put people in there that don't know they're in there. And two, you have some programming, you have some strategy. It's not just,
Yeah.
well, here's everything, check it out at your own time frame. It's like, be strategic.
Yes, I love all of that. And yes, you're preaching to the converted here. And I think a lot of our audience are certainly the converted too. So, some really great tips. Let's talk a bit about technology. You and I had a pretty real conversation last time we caught up and we talked a little bit about this industry and technology. How do you think, let's be honest here for a little minute, how do you think our
Yes.
industry is faring when it comes to technology?
I, mm,
Yeah.
I There is so much opportunity. There
Yeah.
is so much opportunity. And I think the opportunity comes from where people are, social media, how they
Mm-hmm.
want to shop, social media, where they
Mm-hmm.
want to shop, social media, and
Mm-hmm.
definitely on the phone. So to me, that's like technology, technology,
Yeah.
technology. How do we innovate? How do we make it simpler for a consultant to go from, hey, I liked your offer to, okay, here's something that's like, so I'm 100% like, we have a lot of opportunity on the technology side of things. Even just um, being able to load up an offer for someone. Sent people buy now based on links, Sam, you know what I mean? It's like, don't send me to your website where I have to figure
No.
out what I'm buying,
Yeah.
you know.
Where I'm going, how to find the
Right.
things. Just FYI, I'm going to throw this out there. I'm not naming any names, but a lot of websites in this industry are really terrible and very hard to navigate. So don't, I agree with you there. I think we shouldn't be automatically sending people to a website because you have it.
Yes, it's hard because one, you may or may not have told me what you do. So now I'm on a website and I'm like, I don't even know what, like, I all I saw was you using something, drinking something, wearing something,
Mhm.
cooking with something, and I just want that thing. And now kind of put me in this labyrinth of, and a confused mind says no, but
Yes.
also that's not how we shop.
Yeah.
We shop based on here's the thing, just click and go.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to laugh because I think a lot of us, when we really stop and think about this, I get a lot of people will say to me, oh, the content that, if we do a challenge, for example, we will give people a piece of content to post every day. We give them a strategy, and that strategy will have dozens, if not, sometimes hundreds of ideas within that strategy that they can employ that day. And so we give them one a day, and we might do it for 7, 10, 14 days. This is something that we love to do. And we always get a group of people that will do this process and say, it's not working because people aren't commenting. And I've got to ask them the question, when you go to social media, how do you behave? When you scroll through all of the reels that you're looking at, how many of them do you comment on or interact with? And they stop and think about it for a minute and they go, oh, well, not very many at all, probably none. Okay, well, does that mean that none of those got your attention? No, I remember a lot of them. I know a lot of the people that I love to look at reels from, but have never commented on one of them. Okay, so why are we expecting our audience to interact with everything we do and making the assumption that they're only paying attention if they comment or interact? People are like, it's like I talk about the animals in the forest analogy. I think you
Yes.
might have heard me speak on this at the DSA conference once before. And it's like when you are on social media, you're in the clearing in the forest and all the animals are in the trees. You can't see them there. They can see you, but you can't see them. And I think we've got to remember that we're on show. Like when we show up on social media, we're on show. People are watching us. And, are you being a car crash? Are you being something that they're watching because, they want to see what happens next? But they're never going to run into the middle of that and do business with you? Or, are you being that thing that inspires them, excites them, that they feel like they're getting to know and they feel safe and building trust with? Because we know that people buy on the 8th to the 12th contact, which means the 8th to the 12th time they come across you, they're exposed to you, not the first time, second, third, even fourth or fifth. So we've got to keep showing up, right? And I love what you said about showing up in the right places. I want to ask you a little bit about that because I think there's a lot of confusion to people. There's the shiny new object all the time. In your opinion, and we haven't had this conversation, so I'm not going to tell you what my opinion is here, but is Facebook dead? Is Facebook, like should people be showing up on Facebook or should they be over on TikTok and whatever platform is popping up in the here and now?
So that is an excellent question. And I think the answer is based on where you hang out the most and where
Mm-hmm.
your customers hang out the most.
Yeah.
So I have representation in both of those platforms and even a third, but I know who I'm talking to. I know the demographic is different on Facebook. The way I show up there is a little bit different. Instagram is a slightly younger audience. There's a slightly different way that I show up there as well. But to your point, it's to me about every one of your posts is marketing. It
Yeah.
really is. Until you say, hey, I'm pretty sure we're a good fit. Here's the offer. We've had a discussion and you're buying, which is the selling part of things. It's
Mm-hmm.
marketing. And I always go back to people and I'm like, well, remember when we used to watch TV at a scheduled time and the
Yeah, I
commercials
was
would come on?
trying to explain this to my kids the other day who were binge watching Friends on Netflix. And I explained to them that once upon a time, we had to wait a whole week before the next half an hour episode was available. And throughout that entire episode, there were adverts that you could not skip
Yes.
past. They were like, I
Yes.
don't
And
understand,
just
they
one.
said. I just don't get it. Yeah.
I know, just one episode a week. That was it. That's
Yeah.
all I had.
They're like,
But
that sounds like
it,
torture.
and that's how social media is. I think about, you know, even though I see the commercial regularly, I don't jump off my couch, get in my car and go and purchase, or I don't take my phone out and purchase at that time. But I now have a mental note about what that brand offers and
Yeah.
the problems that they solve. The
Yeah.
point is to be there when they actually realize and they come to
Mm.
consciousness of the fact that, like, I have a need that you fit. It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that woman, I was watching those posts. It's, I
Yeah.
like her. I like what
Yeah.
she's doing. Yeah,
I
and it
trust this
is.
product. It's not the right time. We talk a little bit about no is not no. It's not right now. Usually,
Yeah.
most of the time, it's actually funny. I don't know if you do this, but as a marketer, I kind of almost test brands, businesses, people that are selling to me. Not so much deliberately, but I'm kind of like, if you earn my business, then you can have it. But if I see something on Facebook that I think, I saw something yesterday. It was this really great little down ball net idea where the kids can kind of, it had the 4 quadrants, but it was a net rather than a drawn out court. And, they can sort of bounce their ball in the corners of this net. And I thought my kids would love that. But it was a bit over $100. I've already done all my Christmas shopping and I clicked on it because I thought to myself, if this brand earns the right to get my business, they will remarket to me again and again. And then I've got some birthdays coming up. I think it's a perfect gift idea, but it's not the right time for me to get it for Christmas. I've already done all my Christmas shopping. It's not that I don't want it now, but I want to keep seeing your content and I want to be reminded of it because there will be a time that I would like to do business with you. And I do that often. I often think to myself, I'm going to click on it because I want them to retarget me. And
Right? I know.
do you do
I do
that?
that too. I'm
Oh,
like, let me just watch this for 3 seconds
yeah,
and then I move on.
yeah. If you deserve my business, you will retarget me. So yeah, it's a really good. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we're the only 2 weird people like that, but I've got a feeling there's
Have
other
you ever
people
talked
out
in
there.
your phone? You're like,
Yeah,
I need a Christmas gift for a 7-year-old. And then,
and yet Mark Zuckerberg tells us they're not listening.
mm, mm,
We'll leave that one
mm,
out there. Just
mm,
dangle that one for a little moment. Um,
mm.
so let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned before relational versus transactional selling. Can you talk
Yes,
about the difference between the two?
yes. And I think this is really important because the best thing about social selling, direct sales, network marketing, whatever you identify as from your standpoint, is the relationship. So many brands would love to have what we have in this channel. They would love to have raving fans. The way you create a raving fan is you create an emotional connection to them while
Mm,
you're solving their problem.
yeah, I love that.
No one's really a raving fan of, you know, like most department stores. It's kind of like, yeah, I go here, I go there, but I wouldn't say I'm a raving fan. But like Apple creates raving fans. And the
Mhm.
way that that's done is by forming a community around
Mhm.
the brand, by being in touch with it. And as people who are influencers in our own community, it's about really understanding, why did Marcy buy? Why didn't Sarah buy? What can I do to ensure that she's not signing up for a thing? So a transaction is, you paid me money, I gave you something, you go away, and then I got to hustle really hard to get another transaction.
Yep.
When you are relational, you are thinking about not a thing, but you're thinking about the transformation that occurs in that customer's life. When
Yep.
you sell transformation over transaction, you will have repurchasing, you will have referrals, you will have
Yep.
people wanting to be around and be a part of what you do. So when we think about what we do, I think the problem a lot of times is people look at how other people sell, and I'm like, no, don't do that. They're not getting the results you think they are. And
Yep.
the whole point of network marketing is not to have to hustle so hard for
Yep.
new customers every month.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to let's come back to the swimming between the flags thing for a little minute. There are lots of different ways of doing things in this industry. The first thing I want to just point out, and you and I had this conversation when we first caught up, are people still doing that? Where we get those cold reach outs from people that we don't know, we haven't heard of. I've got a little bit of a pet peeve, if you like, with LinkedIn. I've talked about this many times. I've even
Ah,
done a podcast episode on this
it's so
where
bad on LinkedIn
I
now.
know. And I send this episode to people that do this to me. But every time I accept connections on LinkedIn, I'm like, okay, how many of these are going to automatically send me a sell? And if they do, I just remove them again. I'm like, you haven't earned the right to do that. We don't even
Correct.
know each other. And I think we see a lot of that on social media. So one of the things I was going to say with that, Genevieve, based on what you just said, is if it feels uncomfortable and it feels cheesy and salesy and unnatural, trust that feeling just because someone else is doing it. If you've got a leader who's saying to you, do this because it worked for me and it doesn't feel right for you, it's possibly not right for you. You don't need to hassle and hound and sell like crazy in order to be successful in this industry, right?
That's correct. And I would say my one rule is just don't be weird. And you're being weird when you actually are like, ugh. Like there's a feeling that happens right after, and we've all done it.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
done it. I have done it when I was in the field. I had somebody say, "Oh, don't be desperate." I mean, like I have heard all the things, so I have done it. But in the vein of swim between the lanes, the way that network marketing works is based on doing things that anyone can do. And
Mhm.
I would up that to people are more sophisticated now because there's so much at their fingertips. It has to be anyone can do and anyone enjoys doing.
Yeah, that's
If
true.
you are meeting those two criteria, you will have a thriving business. People will look at you and they will go, I don't know what Sam's got going on over there, but I need to be a part of it.
Yep.
I'm a little concerned that we've gone a little off the deep end, and now there's a lot of criticism about network marketing. And I think it's because of this. I think it's that people are way too early in the and it's well meaning. So I just want to say, I said it is well meaning because we say, oh, you don't have to sell. I would say we need to stop saying that. You do have to sell, but you
Mm.
have to change your reference of selling from it's a transaction to it's
To
a transformation, and it's the
absolutely.
transference of inspiration. When you tell somebody if you're inspired by it, now you go and inspire someone else. That feels different. But
Mm.
I liked your post, so now you're reaching out to me. I'm like, girl, I will never like another one of your posts again. It's
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. We get asked this question a lot. People will come in and say, "Oh my gosh, I just had someone interact with one of my posts. Should I now DM them?" And I'm like, only if it's appropriate to do so in a value-driven relationship building way. If they've responded to your post with you might have said, "What is the go-to turkey or ham for the Christmas table?" And they write back and say turkey. Maybe if you have the most amazing turkey recipe you want to share with them, then go for it. But if it's suddenly like, hey, do you want to learn a little bit more about my business opportunity? That is not an in or an appropriate way to do a reach out. But I
yes,
love what you said there. And I think it all comes back to this. If you focus on the relationship first, the sale generally takes care of itself because your conversation will naturally come to what do you do? What's your experience? What's your journey? That's what friends talk about. And when you're able to say, "Oh my gosh, I lost 7 kilos over the last couple of months doing this amazing health program," and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I need a health program too. I want to lose a little bit of weight. Tell me about what you're doing." That is a much better conversation than, "Hey, you commented on my turkey post. Do you want to hear about how to lose some weight this Christmas?"
right.
Which people are doing.
Well,
But
and nobody likes that. You don't like it when it's done to you, you
yeah,
know. So
yeah.
I think
I
that the key. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I had a really great way of saying what you just said before about, um, you know, the way that we frame selling, and I want to chat with you about that in a sec. Because I think this is obviously something I'm very passionate about, very experienced with. But I heard somebody, another leader who we've been doing a lot of work with. said that when they get people join their team or when they get new customers, they say to them, I don't want you to sell to anyone. What I want you to do is I want you to experience our program or our product. And then when you've had the experience I know you're going to have, because I'm really confident this is going to work for you, I want you to pay it forward. And so it takes away that feeling of selling to, oh, I'm paying it forward and helping someone else once it's helped me. And I love that. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that. I feel like that's a much more natural approach, right?
That is a very natural approach. I think it's also okay to ask people for referrals, and I think it's okay to set that up in a
Yeah.
casual way throughout the conversation. So I need more referrals from a business standpoint. So when you fall in love with these products, like I know that you will,
Mm-hmm.
just tuck this away. There is an opportunity to use your referral link and get some money off of your next products. Like to me, that's a very soft
Yeah.
introduction to the idea of referrals. But it's plugged in again and again. Even like you said, it's like, hey, and when you get the results you're looking for, you're going to be able to pay it forward, and that will create a little extra money for you. Or, hey, but
Yeah.
you've got to, that's like when I talked about strategies, that's a strategy that
Mm.
should be built into your process so that you're saying it several times to somebody in a
Yeah.
spaced out way so that when they actually are having great products, they haven't heard about sharing for the first time then. You've
Yeah.
already
That's right.
set the table. And it's like, oh yeah, I do
Yeah.
remember you saying that. But the other thing I think people need to remember is everybody is watching you. They're watching how you signed me up as a customer. They're watching how you handled me once I became a customer. They're watching how you network and how you would talk to your friends. And they're watching how you would expect me to talk to my friends. So
Yeah.
all of that has to be far more, I think, far more savvy than we've had to be in the past.
Yeah. I would agree. And I think we've brought, as an industry, I think we've brought a lot of our old ways of operating into a new digital world, which there needs to be some adjustment because the way people behave has changed. And so the way we behave also needs to change. And so when we operate on social media like an old school, pull out the whiteboard style network marketing company in the middle of dinner,
Uh-huh.
it shines this great big, and you was talking before about the negative connotation that this industry unfortunately has developed. I think that's because social media shines a big spotlight on the very few, I believe, that
Yes.
are
Yes.
behaving badly, are creating a very loud noise that is putting a bad taste in the mouth of lots of people when it comes to this industry. It's the small few that are causing a problem for the great many, but social media is a big giant spotlight. So we've got to
It's
remember
a
that.
magnifier. Yes,
Yeah.
it's a magnifier. Now, and we all
Yeah.
have people, by the way. We all have our little list of people that we need to go back and apologize to. you know, I actually have trained people. I'm like, it's okay to go back and talk to that friend that you were a little
Yeah.
overzealous with, and
You
just let them
would.
know, like, hey, when I
Yeah.
started, I was a little like I was at 10 and I needed to
Yeah.
be at like a 5, and
Yeah.
I've become a little savvier now, and I just want to apologize for
Yeah.
how I came at you, and I hope I didn't leave a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
And I say that because I think people get afraid sometimes. They're like, I don't want to be what you're talking about.
Mhm.
But you have to be bad in order to get good. You
You've
just
got to
don't
make
want
the
to spend a
mistakes.
lot
Yeah.
of time in that space. You want to reduce.
Sometimes, sometimes you need to go outside the flags and get a feeling of what a rip feels like to
Yes.
understand that you don't want to be there. You want to get
Yeah.
back in between those flags because that's the safe place to be. And that's where swimming is at its most enjoyable in Australia,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I know. And, I think it's really interesting, Sam. People are used to right now being sold to on social. They really
Yeah.
are. Like the whole TikTok shop, people, the affiliate mark, everybody's got an affiliate thing. Everybody's my links in the bio, all the things. So it's not like it's not acceptable. It's just that you have to be very transparent about
Hmm.
when you're doing it, why you're doing it, and it can't be every single conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just talk a little bit about selling quickly, because I know we are fast running out of time. As always happens, I get on a roll and I love these conversations. And today is no exception, because it is one of my favorite topics as well. The sale, which is the
Yeah.
thing that so many people are so scared of. And they're scared of it. I love what you said before. It's not just the no, it's also sometimes the yes that we're afraid of. But let's talk about the no, because that's what everyone
Yes.
knows that they're afraid of, right? What are
Yes.
some top tips you've got to help people reduce the number of no's that they receive when they do get to the point of asking for the sale?
Yes. So I actually tell people the opposite. I actually tell people embrace the no
I love it.
and
Yep.
collect no's, because it's one thing you can control. You can actually control a no more than you can a yes. And
Mhm.
if you were to just accumulate more no's every day, you would get to a yes faster.
Yep.
However, to your point, you can't just ask anything. You have to ask in a way, Sarah, that they're actually not saying no to you. They're saying no to a transformation. And that's not rejection. That is a sign of, I'm just not ready yet. So if I
Mm.
were, hey, can you buy this from me? Right? I've made it very personal. Can you buy this from me? And I say no, I'm going to feel extremely rejected. Like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, you're not going to help me? And it's kind of like, well, that's not really their job to help you, first of all.
Yeah.
But secondly, if you had a conversation around, hey, what's going on in your life? How does that show up? What happens if you don't fix it? And oh my gosh, I know, I've seen that. So you go from interest to empathy to you check for readiness, right? Are we ready to do something about it? And some people aren't. Then they are saying no to a transformation and they aren't saying no to you. So I'm a big
Yep.
fan of like, have a really good ask. I always have to say, ask. Have a really good ask that you feel very, very proud to share.
Yep.
And then you'll never feel like you're personally being rejected.
I love what you just said. And I want to just say that I 150% agree with the concept of going for the no. And we actually interviewed Andrea Waltz on this podcast back
Yes.
a couple of years ago, and she wrote the book Go for No,
Yes.
which is such a great way of looking at it. But the thing you got to keep in mind is even the most successful salespeople in the world, and I'm talking the most successful salespeople in the world, know it's a numbers game, and they understand that in order to get a yes, they have to get a no. And so they
Yes.
chase it because they know I've got to ask 5 people before I get one person say yes, or I've got to ask 3, or I've got to ask 10. It's not about getting a yes every time. But if you're afraid of the no and so you don't ask, you're also not getting the
Yeah.
yeses.
Yes.
Um,
And remember when I talked about invisibility? So, what I've trained people is this notion that no, N-O, gets you to knowing, K-N-O-W. So, when you hear a no, the thing that you did was you got out of invisibility. You've gotten out of that
I love that.
invisibility zone. And now you're in, at least I know, K-N-O-W. I know who you are and I know what you offer. Maybe I don't need it at this moment, but that's a big step.
That's
That's
a
a
really
big
great way
step.
of looking at it. But you're also
Yeah.
gaining information about that person. If they say no, they're generally you usually are learning something about that person, which gives you a little bit more leverage is the wrong word, but it gives you more information to work with that person moving forward. It doesn't mean that you hound and hassle, but the next time you get to the point where, and we talk a little bit about the date ask. So
Yes.
you build the relationship and you have 3 relationship building efforts before you ever get to a point of asking again. And maybe you change the way you ask. But the thing is that now you've got more information to help you with the next round. So I love that. I love that so much.
Yes.
The no to knowing.
Yes.
Beautiful.
You gotta make that step, which is why I think like Andrea's right. You gotta go for no. You gotta celebrate those no's. As a leader, I would be on calls and I would be asking people, let's get your no report, because every one of those no's
Love
is
that.
a big step.
Yeah. Well, I've spoken on this podcast before as well, multiple times about gamifying it. You know,
Yeah.
you said, I want your no report. I love that. What's your no report? Don't give us the yeses for the day, give us the no's for the day. I used to have I call it a rubbish bin. I think you call it a trash can. But I used to have a
Yes.
trash
Yes.
can, and my aim was every day I needed to fill that trash can with, I had balls of paper. Now, don't stress. I recycled the balls every day, but I knew how many balls I needed to fill that rubbish bin. And so every time I made a call and I got a yes or a no, but specifically the no's were what was filling up my trash can, because I knew that once I filled it, I was likely to have had 3 yeses for my day. And that was my
Right.
thing. It was like, if I leave my desk, this was when I was in my cold calling sales role, very, very different, and a lot
Yes.
harder than what you need to be doing in the direct selling industry. But I knew that if I left my desk and I hadn't filled that trash can, that rubbish bin, then tomorrow I was going to have to fill it 1.5 times,
Right.
because it's a numbers game, right?
It is. It is. And if I had, and I do this analogy all the time. I say, let's say I brought in a dumpster. Like picture a dumpster, and I filled it with Easter eggs, those little plastic Easter eggs. And I said, inside one of those Easter eggs is, $1 million or whatever your goal happens to be. It's that trip
Uh-huh.
with your family. But all you have to do is find all of the ones that it's not in order to find the ones that it is in. And I'm like, so how many of you, if I told you, and I said, get at it, and you saw me put that in there and toss it in there so you know it's in there. How many of you would actually get in a dumpster? I don't even say a clean dumpster. You'd get in a dumpster and you'd kind of open them up and you'd be celebrating. Well, that's not it. Well, that's not it. Well, that's not
Yeah,
it.
I'm
Well, that's
closer
not.
to
And
finding it. Yeah.
you're closer to finding it. And the beauty of the no, besides becoming uninvisible, is that you learn about that person. You also learn about your processes. Like maybe
Mhm.
maybe my ask is coming too early. Maybe my ask isn't transactional. It's too transactional. It's not transformational. And unlike unlike the egg in the dumpster, you actually do have an opportunity to learn from every single no you get. And
Yes.
that's a gift. That's a
Yeah.
gift.
Yeah. I love that so much. I love it so much. Well, Genevieve, I want to throw at you my 4 favorite questions. I ask all of my guests these, and I am very curious to hear your answers. So you ready for them?
I am.
All right. First one is this. What is your favorite book for us to add to our accelerated book list?
Yes, you all want to read Dear Work, Something's Got to Give by Sarah Ross. Now, I'm sure all of my others are already in so I tried to think of something that maybe you hadn't all been exposed to. But it is a great book. Sarah talks about the challenge between the hustle and not resting enough and burnout. How do you avoid burnout? And something
Yeah.
that she calls vitality, like like get into your vitality zone, which is the most so that is the book I would highly recommend.
All right, I'm adding it. I've actually got a little goal for myself, and that is to read a book a month. So 12
Oh,
books. I've got a few on my list over
great.
here that I've not read yet. They've all got to be brand new. I've got a bunch I want to reread, but these have to be 12 brand new books for the year. So I'm adding this to my list. It sounds like
You
a
will
must
love it.
read. All
Yes.
right, awesome.
Yes.
And if you could have a superpower, any superpower, what would it be and why?
Um, my superpower would be invisibility.
I
I just
think,
get done talking about how you want to get out of invisibility, but
yeah, yeah.
that's the superpower I want.
All right, but how would you use it is my question. I've had a few people answer this and I've had some varying different reasons for it. So what would be your reason? How would you use it? Because I feel like this could be a double-edged sword, this one.
I know. On like the grander good for the greatest number of people,
Uh-huh.
I would use it to be in conversations where I could learn. And like I wouldn't normally be there. I wouldn't be invited to the conversation, between person A and person B about something that could change my life, my family's
Like
life, the
Elon Musk and
community.
Donald Trump.
I just want to sit and hear the things, like that, maybe I'd like to hear what like Oprah and Gail talk about. I just noticed on social media it was Gail's 70th birthday. And I was like, I would have loved to have been with like all these people. And I'm like,
So, like, be a
what do
fly
they?
on the wall. You would be a fly on the wall.
Yes, that's how I'd use my power. Just,
Okay.
but I would learn
I
and then I would share.
I was
All the
I've
things.
got to tell you a really quick funny story. I'm sure our listeners have heard this because it was one of our past episodes, but I asked the beautiful Kenya Kelly this, and she is the most gorgeous human being. She's a TikTok expert. If you haven't checked out that episode, go back and listen to it. She dropped some incredible tips for being successful on TikTok. But Kenya, who is also a minister, she's an ordained minister, like she pastors a church. She said, I would be invisible so I could rob banks. I was like, what? Where did that come from? So we ended up having the biggest laugh about that. Okay. What's your favorite quote?
Yes, my favorite quote comes from the book The Traveler's Gift.
Oh, one of my
And
favorite books. Yes.
right? So it's man's greatest tragedy isn't that he lost, it's that he almost won.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that.
And so true.
Mm-hmm.
So true. It's
Yep.
like so many people are so close, and the tragedy isn't they lost, it's that they were closer than they thought and then they quit.
Yep. I love it. So good.
Yep.
So good. Last question, and by far my favorite, but Genevieve, if you could go back in time and say one
Yes.
thing to your past self, what would that be?
Be bolder.
Ooh,
Be
yes.
be bolder.
Mhm.
It took me a long time to gain the confidence that I have now, and a lot of mistakes, a lot of fear of judgment. I would have told myself, I would have showed up and I would say, girl, if you could get bolder sooner, you're gonna you're gonna be able to help so many more people and live a more extraordinary life.
Yeah. I think that is a brilliant, brilliant tip to finish off this episode with. And if I think our listeners, anyone who's tuning in here today, could take that little piece of advice and going into this year be just a little bit more bold, even with your asks. We talked today about asking people to do business with us, asking for the sale. Be a little bolder, because part of the reason that so many of you are not getting the sales is because you're not asking the question, right? It's really that
Yes.
simple. It's not because people don't want what you have. You just haven't offered it to them yet. So I love that so much. Thank you for joining me today. It's been so great chatting with you, and your incredible wisdom and your passion for this industry shines through. So thank you, Genevieve. It's been so great connecting today.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. And thank you as well to our beautiful listeners for tuning in. We love having you join us every week, and we look forward to having you on the podcast again next week. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming goodies and episodes. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. If you love listening and you found that this was helpful for your direct selling business, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check out the recommended video that's popped up on your screen right here. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now.